Are they spacefarers? Are they time travelers? Are they a little bit of both? Bizarre extraterrestrial entities we will come to know as heptapods. They arrive on Earth to bring us each a weapon or tool to 12 different spots on Earth. Time is running out. If time is a thing, what will happen? What will be the outcome? The incredible science fiction tale, Amy Adams, Jeremy Renner, Forrest Whitaker, 2016's Arrival. At its core, it isn't really a science fiction film, although it sort of is. The heptapods arrive on Earth in 12 different locations. They begin communicating with humans at these 12 different locations. Linguists and mathematicians are brought in to try to figure out how to communicate. Amy Adams plays Louise. She is a linguist. Jeremy Renner is a mathematician. Forrest Whitaker is military guy in charge of said location. And within the United States, we see through their eyes the attempts to communicate with the extraterrestrials. Though we find out all the other places around the world are involved, at first they're in contact with one another. Russia, China, Sudan, you name it, all these other locations that have an alien pod with heptapods. And a lot of exploration then about learning their language, finding out that their language involves non-linear thinking outside of time and space. It is sort of a time warp, it sort of is not. But Amy Adams, as she studies the figures, begins to see her life moving in a non-linear way, experiencing the past, the present, the future at different times. The aliens even hint that they have come now because in 3,000 years they're going to need humanity's help. And now they have come to prepare for that by bringing us a weapon. Or is it a tool? It's hard to interpret how they're interpreting our language and how the communication is going. Ultimately, this leads to some sort of unification of humanity. As we learn the secret, we learn the language, and we learn ways to stand down from our aggression. In this sense, this is all fairly standard science fiction. They also do an incredible job of dealing with the alien physiology. Of course, we've not seen aliens, at least that we know of, anybody will know for sure of. We haven't actually seen extraterrestrials. I mean, people claim to, is what I'm trying to say. We have in our imagination the ability to imagine extraterrestrial entities, but those things are always based on our scientific or practical knowledge. The heptapods in this film come across as very alien. They're called heptapods. Hepta, 7, they look like some sort of maybe giant octopus with 7 limbs instead of 8. And each of those limbs has 7 smaller appendages. And yet their environment in which they need to dwell, the overall physiology, at first they kind of look like Cousin It from the Addams Family movies. I mean, Thane, the hand, but it has 7 fingers. Then when we see the rest of the form, it's something kind of octopus-like, and yet it really isn't. In the long run, is it really any more alien than a deep-sea jellyfish? No. But as science fiction films go, they put a lot of thought in to making this feel like it would be alien, to drive home the idea of it feeling otherworldly. They're not mole men, they're not ant-men, they're not lizard people, they're heptapods, they're something different. Their technology the same way, it kind of floats, it doesn't make any noise, it's kind of saucer-ish, not really. We mostly see it from the side, which is also a weird, almost organic, but unnatural enough to obviously not be organic. It's, again, really well thought out development of making it feel otherworldly. Ultimately, however, as I noted at the beginning, this isn't really a science fiction film. And of course, great sci-fi is always exploring the human condition through the eyes of the future or alien cultures or gadgetry or whatever. Yes, Arrival does that much more so. You begin to forget that there's anything extraterrestrial or science fiction going on as you, along with Amy Adams' character, along with Louise, begin to experience her life in flashes and tidbits, becoming aware, as she does, that she's seeing things happen out of time sequence. Things that happen in the future guarantee success in the past. Things that are present are, well, it isn't really clear. Of course, the underpinning theme is, it's not the destination, it's the journey. Something that we see a meme of fairly regularly, but not nearly as trite or surface, rather dealt with in depth about the nature of existence and what its value is. There's underpinning a very strong pro-life argument, as she has visions of a daughter she has yet to conceive, about the fact that the daughter will have a very rare disease and die young, apparently in her teenage years. Her husband, the father, will leave her because he finds out that she knew the child was going to die of this sickness and conceived the child anyway and had the child anyway. And he loves his daughter, but he doesn't know how to feel about it. And of course, we find out in the course that Jeremy Renner's character, she and he having just met to talk to the aliens, end up being a couple. He's the father of the child, and they have differing ideas about whether they should have had their baby or not, given their baby's limited life expectancy. And yet, she had her baby because she loved her baby. She had her daughter because she loved her daughter. She wanted her daughter to have her life. So her daughter is going to die young and tragically, and that's terrible, but we all die. The fact that the outcome of our life is inevitably sickness, suffering, and death does not mean life isn't worth living at all, and that none of us be born and the whole species should commit suicide. That would be crazy. And yet we assign value to human lives based on their lifespan, their quality, as we ascertain them, deciding who should live and who should die, or who ought to this or that. But Louise wants to have her baby, love her baby, lose her baby. This is part of her now non-linear existence, that she understands this. She will never really lose her baby because the daughter will always be alive in some time and place, and so will Louise, and so will. It's really amazing stuff. And it gets at the whole nature then of our existence, and that our understanding of that existence has got to broaden in order to be able to communicate with the heptapods. Language is an expression of how we see the universe. It also is the way we learn to describe our universe. That we think in our language, we often then feel in the language that is native to us. We will never be able to approach the heptapods, or truly they us, until we cross that barrier of communication, which conveys how one thinks about the universe and looks at it. The heptapods see it in its totality. They clearly are not confined to linear time. We are, but we can learn to think beyond it. And with the language, which turns out to be the tool, not the weapon, or it could be interpreted as a weapon, still, the language that they share, of their language of circles and squiggles, which have no beginning and no end, which unlock the key to some sort of time travel, or at least learning to think in that language means the ability to see beyond linear time. That process is what will make humans become more unified, allow us to be unified with the heptapods. This is what sets up for whatever future is coming in 3,000 years that the heptapods need us to be ready for. And there's no real science fiction-y description of exactly what that is, of what we have to do, of what's coming, because that's not critical. That's sort of an unknown destiny waved out there to let us know why now. But the real story is about learning to live with life on life's terms as life comes to us, but appreciating the moments as they are non-linear moments. They are, like a great film, bits and pieces from scene to scene, which flow together to tell a narrative, but we can fast forward and rewind to any of those scenes as we progress through them. It's really amazing stuff. So the movie is very thoughtful, it's very cerebral, it's very intellectual, but it's also very deeply personal. It's about love and the value of love and what is worth the struggle of life, and why would you want to miss any part of that. So it is surprisingly a pro-life thing to be coming out of Hollywood anytime in the last 100 years. But it's pro-life in the much larger sense as well, about understanding our existence as individuals, whether we're adults or children, in a different way, in a way that's not so linear, beginning, middle, end, we're gone, but understanding a place in the universe, however infinitesimal our mortal place might be in comparison to God, angels, eternity, the unknown existence of the heptapods, etc. It overall is a great film, and it's one of those films that it doesn't just flow well narrative-wise, which it does. It isn't just that each scene goes together well, which it does, but it's one of those unique films that's like a painting transferred into a film. And there's only a few films I feel that way about, but Arrival is one of them. It's like you're looking at a painting that tells this whole story, and yet somehow it stretches the story across the span of a couple hours, which again ties in perfectly with the theme. I loved it. It's included with Prime right now. If you haven't seen it, see it, check it out. Let me know what you think. Arrival.